episode, and today's topic of conversation is the 1990 family Christmas classic, Home Alone. I'm sure most of us are aware that this is one of the most popular Christmas movies of all time, so it only seemed fitting that I feature it over this festive period. So, without delay, it's time to lay back, relax, and let yourself drift away as I whisper facts about Home Alone. Home Alone is a 1990 American comedy film directed by Chris Columbus and written by John Hughes. It is the first film in the Home Alone franchise and stars Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, John Hurd, and Catherine O'Hara. The film follows a young boy as he defends his home from two burglars after his family accidentally leave him behind in Chicago on their vacation to Paris during Christmas time. Home Alone premiered in Chicago on the 10th of November 1990 and was released in cinemas in the United States on the 16th of November. Upon release, it became a financial success and received positive reviews with praise for its cast, humour, and music. Home Alone grossed $476.7 million worldwide, becoming the highest grossing live-action comedy until the release of The Hangover Part 2 in 2011 and made Culkin a child star. Okay, so The Hangover Part 2, really? That's the movie that knocked it off top spot as the highest grossing live action movie. That seems really random. I've never actually seen the Hangover movies, so perhaps it's not too big of a shock if you've seen them and you know how popular they are. Maybe I'll have to check them out at some point, but that does seem quite a surprising movie to knock it off top spot. Joe Pesci deliberately avoided Macaulay Culkin on set because he wanted Culkin to think he was mean. Yeah, you hear a lot about this sort of thing happening during movie productions. A lot of actors like to go one further than that and actually stay in character even during the breaks. I believe that's called method acting. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he wanted to avoid him during the shooting to keep up the appearance of being this mean burglar that wants to rob his house. The picture Kevin finds of Buzz's girlfriend was a picture of a boy made up to look like a girl because director Chris Columbus thought it would be too cruel to make fun of a girl like that. The boy that was used in the photo was art director Dan Webster's son. The line, "You guys give up or you're thirsty for more," was improvised. You see that a lot in movies, that some of the lines that turn out to be the most popular or the most recognizable are actually improvised. Joe Pesci kept forgetting that he was filming a family movie during his character's on-screen outbursts, so director Chris Columbus advised him to say fridge instead of the F word. has Joe Pesci at the centre of it. And yeah, there's a lot of swearing involved in that scene. Many of the shots that focus on Kevin in the beginning of the movie are filmed from above his head, making him seem small and helpless. At the end of the movie, Kevin is mostly shot from below, making him seem taller and more confident. John Candy improvised all of his lines. This is a trademark of writer and producer John Hughes, who also had the 5 students in the Breakfast Club from 1985 improvise when they told one another why they were in detention. And that's another really good movie, The Breakfast Club. It's one that I seen not that long ago, maybe a few years, but I really enjoyed it, so it's worth checking out if you've never seen that movie. Macaulay Culkin drew the map that his character uses to set up the traps. Eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed Mr. McAllister actually throws Kevin's ticket to Paris in the rubbish bin while cleaning up after the pizza incident near the beginning of the movie. That accounts for why they weren't tipped off to Kevin's absence by an unclaimed ticket. This was actually something I only spotted once I was an adult. I never noticed that as a kid, but I got it sometime in my early 20s, I think, I would say, and it makes a lot of sense that they had to get rid of Kevin's ticket in some way, or it would be noticed that he was missing long before they got on the plane to Paris. The movie that Kevin watches on videotape is not a real movie, but footage specially created. It was called Angels with Filthy Souls. Along with other similar era references in the movie, this is a play on Angels with Dirty Faces from 1938, starring James Cagney. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern didn't have high hopes about the movie's potential during filming, so they intentionally gave over-the-top performances, neither one of them believing this movie would become the massive success that it has. Everyone on set was amazed with how mature and professional Macaulay Culkin was. Joe Pesci told Entertainment Weekly, "Mac is not like a 9-year-old. He's an old man already." Marv's lines, "Why the hell are you dressed like a chicken?" and "Maybe he committed suicide," were improvised by Daniel Stern. I'm surprised that they left the line, "Maybe he committed suicide," in the movie. It being a family movie, of course, I'm not sure suicide is a word you really want young kids hearing or asking what it means. Imagine a young child asking you what suicide means. I have no idea what I would say in that situation. The scream that Daniel Stern belts out during the tarantula scene was filmed live on set, after Stern was assured by the animal handlers that tarantulas do not have ears. The tarantula's poison was not extracted, as some have thought. absolutely love that scream. It's so funny. And he does another one in the sequel when he's covered in the pigeons. You might remember the scene, and I think that one is even funnier. I think somehow he managed to top the first scream. It was absolutely massive, the scream he lets out when the pigeons are on him, but it's so funny. The pages on the Playboy magazine were taped together so young Macaulay Culkin wouldn't see any nudity. The cover was from a July 1989 issue. Hilary Wolf, who played Kevin's sister, Megan, quit acting to practice judo and went on to represent the US at the 1996 and 2000 Summer Olympics. The statue in the front of the house was hit 4 times, twice by the pizza delivery man, once by the airport shuttle driver, and once by a police officer. Macaulay Culkin's stunt double was a very short 30-year-old man. Yeah, you can definitely tell it's not Macaulay himself in some scenes. But you let it slide, obviously, because it's a movie. One scene that comes to mind is when Kevin ziplines from the house across the garden to his wooden hut. I suppose you could call it a tree house. And you can clearly tell that it's not him going across the zipline, obviously. But it's still a really cool scene. Especially when he cuts the rope that Harry and Marv are climbing across, and they end up slamming into the side of the house. I think Kevin must have been really strong to cut that rope at 8 years old. Wouldn't have been easy at all. So yeah, I really like that scene. The movie was entered into the Guinness Book of World Records as the highest box office gross comedy, grossing $477 million worldwide. Writer and producer John Hughes was worried that mothers would never believe a family could forget one of their kids. Chris Columbus recalled, John really filled in every possible logic hole, and the audience always bought it. The ornaments on which Marv steps on were actually made of candy. Oh yeah, that's the part when he sneaks in the window and he puts his feet down on all of the ornaments that are on the floor, and it looked really, really sore, but it's good to know that they were actually made of soft candy and didn't actually hurt the actor's feet. It does come across really painful on screen though, so it was a really well shot scene in that sense. John Candy filmed his part in only 1 day, albeit a 23-hour day. All of his dialogue was improvised, as mentioned earlier. His part was potentially partly inspired by the character he played in Planes, Trains and Automobiles, also written and produced by John Hughes. That's actually a movie I'm not all that familiar with, but I have seen once a couple of years ago. It's set a scene where Harry attempts to bite off Kevin's finger. Joe Pesci actually bit Macaulay Culkin, leaving a small scar. The concept for this movie originated during the filming of a scene in Uncle Buck from 1989, in which Macaulay Culkin plays a character who interrogates a would-be sitter through the letter opening in the front door. Uncle Buck is another classic, I think. I love that movie. Young Macaulay wasn't in too many scenes. I don't recall. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. But I think he really stole the scenes he was in. I remember that clearly, so I'm not surprised at all that it was the birthplace of Home Alone and the Kevin McAllister character. The movie originally had more scenes of the family in Paris, France, but test audiences wanted to get back to Kevin in Chicago. Daniel Stern wore rubber feet for his barefoot scenes, similarly to Bruce Willis as John McClane in Die Hard from 1988. Director Chris Columbus would ask Joe Pesci to do his "How Am I Funny" speech from the 1990 gangster movie Goodfellas on set. In fact, Pesci was to have a similar scene with Daniel Stern, defensively questioning him about having an edge. This scene was deleted. Yeah, and I actually mentioned that scene from Goodfellas a little bit earlier in the video. It's that famous and well known, so I think a scene between Harry and Marv similar to that would have been really good, and I think adults, especially who have seen the Goodfellas movie, would have appreciated a scene like that, but I can understand why it was cut. John Williams stepped in when the original composer backed out. The filmmakers never thought they could get Williams, but he saw an early cut of the movie and was enchanted. John Williams was one of the all-time great composers and is sadly missed today. The musical score for Home Alone is just one of many masterpieces he's created, and it's just so memorable. I think that every good movie is accompanied by a memorable score, and Home Alone certainly is one of those. I think the score is absolutely brilliant, and I do like to listen to it at Christmas time most years, if I remember to look it up. In May 2011, the house in Winnetka, Illinois, used in this movie was listed for sale at $2.4 million. It sold in March 2012 for $1.585 million. The house is promoted as a tourist attraction and cited as an example of how to get your home in the movies. Okay, so I'm wondering, can you actually go into the house if it's a tourist attraction? I would imagine so. I can't imagine anyone lives there with people turning up outside constantly. That would drive you crazy, but I'm not sure. I think people might actually live in that house, but I would have to look into it more. But yeah, I have seen photos of actually really love when you see people who visit sets of movies and places of interest in movies, and you get to compare them to what the place looked like in the movie. I think that's always really fascinating. When 9-year-old Macaulay Culkin got tired on set, he would just lie down on the ground and sleep between takes. That sounds really random, I have to say. You would imagine there would be at least a comfortable sofa or something to lay on for a nap. I'm picturing him laying on the ground with crew members just walking by him. He must be a really sound sleeper if that was the case. Director Chris Columbus's biggest fear as a kid was burglars. It's partly why he wanted to make this movie. Although the part was written especially for Macaulay Culkin by John Hughes, several hundred other boys were auditioned for the part of Kevin McAllister. According to the DVD commentary, Columbus was hesitant to cast Culkin because Hughes had so recently cast him in Uncle Buck and didn't want to appear as a pushover in the film community. It was only after auditioning all the other young actors that he realized Culkin was in fact the best choice for the part. Yeah, I can't imagine anyone else playing the part of Kevin, because that's what we know and it's what we grew up with. Although I'd really love to know if another boy was cast in the part, would the movie have been as successful as it is today? I guess we'll never know. The scene in which Kevin is buying a toothbrush was the first scene that was shot for the movie. At around 53 minutes, despite filming a family movie, Daniel Stern once slipped in the S word, which can be heard when he is retrieving his boot through the doggy door, as well as being shown in the English subtitles. Despite Kevin being home alone, he is never actually seen in his own bedroom. The sled that Kevin uses when sledding down the stairs, which can also be seen next to the television when Kevin is watching How the Grinch Stole Christmas, was signed by the entire cast. I wonder where that sleigh is today and how much it might be worth. No doubt it would be, at the very least, hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would imagine. Well, that would be my rough estimate anyway. I'm sure it's worth a lot of money wherever it is. Roberts Blossom considered this movie one of the high points in his career. Blossom said kids would often recognize him from playing Old Man Marley and ask, "Aren't you the guy?" Yeah, he's one of the characters who I think is talked about less in the movie, but he plays a significant role. As a kid, I obviously knew the actor as Old Man Marley as well, but it wasn't until adulthood, I think, that I saw him in a Clint Eastwood movie, which was Escape from Alcatraz, in which he plays the character of Doc. history. The movie was put into turnaround by Warner Brothers because of the budget, so 20th Century Fox snatched up the rights, and it went on to make $477 million worldwide. A colossal amount of money for such an inexpensive movie. Wow, I'm sure there's a huge part of Warner Brothers that regrets that decision. But their failure to pick up the movie is 20th Century Fox's gain at the end of the day. And I'm sure there are plenty of cases of that in the movie industry when one company declines to pick up a movie and another goes on to pick it up and it becomes a huge success. Macaulay Culkin was only allowed to work on set for 5 hours a day because of child labour laws. The crew planned out the scenes around his schedule, putting him on camera alone a lot. The last scene filmed was the one in which Kevin is running through the water-filled basement. It was filmed at the local high school's swimming pool. The movie is considered a traditional Christmas movie in Poland. It has aired on national television during a prime-time Christmas season every year since 1990. In 2011, the movie aired on December the 23rd, with an audience of over 5 million, making it the most popular movie aired during the Christmas season in Poland. I feel like you could say the same for a lot of countries, probably the USA, UK, maybe Australia and others. Home Alone is always on TV at some point over Christmas here in the UK, as well as the sequel, in fact. So I think the movie has probably been played here almost every year since it's been released. I'd actually really love to know if there has ever been a year that it hasn't been on TV here. I know it definitely gets aired on Sky TV, which is cable TV here in the UK. So yeah, it's quite an interesting fact, but I think it's probably aired in a lot of countries every year, not just Poland. I'm not sure how many other Home Alone movies there were. I know there were a few sequels, but they weren't anywhere near as popular. To promote a stronger Christmas feel, red and green are major recurring colours throughout the movie, appearing quite conspicuously in almost every scene. This includes furniture, clothing, food containers, and all wallpaper. The scene in which Marv and Harry have to slam the brakes on their van to avoid hitting Kevin was actually shot with the van pulling away from him and then reversed in editing. While appearing on a 2018 episode of The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, Macaulay Culkin admitted that one huge plot hole has always bothered him about the movie. Why didn't Kevin just call the cops when the burglars tried to break in? Because then we wouldn't have a very good movie on our hands, would we? Mr. Morley's hand may symbolize his relationship with his son. In his first scene with Kevin, his hand is heavily wrapped in gauze. At this point in time, he and his son are not on speaking terms. Their next scene is in the church, where he confides in Kevin. About the falling out they had. In this scene, he is wearing only a plaster. In the last scene, while hugging his granddaughter, his hand is completely healed. A deleted scene has a shot of Marv and Harry singing their own demented version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I've actually seen this particular scene in question, along with others. A lot of deleted scenes from movies are actually on YouTube. Sometimes when you watch them, you can understand why they were cut, and other times you think that they were good enough to be included in the final version of the movie. The poster and video box image of Kevin with his hands on his face and screaming was improvised by Culkin. He had forgotten to pull his hands away as he screamed. This became the most famous shot of the movie. Yeah, like I mentioned before, sometimes you get lines that are delivered in movies that are not the line that is in the script, but they turn out to be the most famous lines in the movie. Sometimes the best things happen completely by accident. Like in the Terminator movie is one example that's came to mind. The famous line, "I'll be back," was actually scripted as being "I'll come back," which just isn't as good, to be honest. So sometimes fate intervenes and we end up with an accidental piece of movie magic, I guess you could say. When Kevin is jumping up and down on his parents' bed while munching on some popcorn, there were actually several crew members lying on the floor on both sides and at the foot of the bed. They have been instructed to lie there and be ready to catch Macaulay Culkin in case he accidentally jumped or fell off the bed. In December 2018, Macaulay Culkin reprised his role and certain scenes from the movie in a TV advertisement for the Google Assistant product. Yeah, I've actually seen this advert and it's really cool. It's well worth checking out if you're a fan of Home Alone. He reprises a few of the famous scenes from the original movie, such as jumping up and down on the bed, the aftershave on the cheeks scene from the front cover when he's looking in the mirror, and also the eating ice cream while watching the gangster movie. So yeah, it's really cool. I'm gonna actually check that out again this year, as I don't think I've actually seen it since 2018, maybe 2019. Director Chris Columbus's least favourite booby trap in the movie is Harry getting doused with feathers, because it was considered too soft compared to the other traps throughout the sequence. When the McAllisters are running through the Barefoot Paris airport towards the arrival section. Uncle Rob and his family can be briefly glimpsed on the other side of the glass doors, holding a large paper welcome sign. Originally, there was a scene which is featured on the DVD and Blu-ray, with the McAllisters ignoring the sign and tearing it in half by running right through it, but it was cut from the movie. And finally, the major success of the movie and Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, allowed Chris Columbus to move on to other more successful projects like Mrs. Doubtfire and the first two Harry Potter movies. Mrs. Doubtfire is another classic, so yeah, he's done a lot of our family favourites over the years. I've never actually seen the Harry Potter movies, but I know they're extremely popular. But let's face it, nothing will be as popular as Home Alone, especially at Christmas time. It's just an absolute classic, and one that many different generations can enjoy. I remember my granny laughing at Harry and Marv getting all tore up through Kevin's funhouse when I was a kid. And in recent years, I've watched the movie and the sequel with my young nieces, so it really can be enjoyed by all ages, and hopefully it will continue to entertain people of all ages for many years to come. Well guys, that is just about it for this Whispered Facts episode on Home Alone. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you find it informative as well as relaxing. I know I really enjoyed learning all of these fun facts about one of my all-time favourite Christmas movies. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button. Consider subscribing if you're new around here, and I'll bring you plenty more fact videos like this one in the very near future. But thank you for joining me, and until next time, rest easy, sleep well, and I hope to see you again very soon for another video, and goodbye for now.